Hey, I'm Andy Chanley from 88.5, the SoCal Sound, and this is the SoCal Sound interview with Jack Antonoff. There he is right there. Hi, Jack.
How are you, Andy?
I'm great. It's good to meet you for the first time.
Yeah, really
Uh,
nice to meet you.
I want to get the important stuff out of the way. First of all, you know Jack is a founder of the band Fun, of course, current leader of the band Bleachers, producer extraordinaire. And the new stuff is the single Modern Girl, which you're hearing multiple times a day on 88.5, the SoCal Sound. And the new album is called Bleachers. You ran out of ideas. It's just called Bleachers.
No, I it was gonna be called Tribute Living, and then I actually started to write for the first time in my life, kind of outside of the lens of grief, and it made me feel like planting a new flag. And yeah, it felt self-titled, which is kind of like it's a very bold statement. When I first had the idea, I was like, oh no, this is too bold to call it that. And then I realized it just was that.
Nice. Well, it comes out March 8th, and you can pre-order CD, vinyl, or cassette at bleachersmusic.com. Now, I know vinyl outsells CDs now, but tell me about the market for cassettes. Do you?
There is
I haven't
one.
had I haven't had a cassette player in 20 years.
They're just cool. And I think that I just like laughing in the face of any sort of like capitalist movement that tells you something's over. Because look what happened with vinyl. It's just like imagine I told you 20 years ago that in 2023 they'd sell more vinyl than the 70s. It's the whole thing
It's
is just
nuts.
so annoying, and you realize that so often like a lot of the narrative of the world is being made by people who are just trying to make money off of something else. And so I love making, I also, we're not going to make 100,000 cassettes, but if
Right.
there's a few thousand people out there that want them, then that's awesome, and they
So I'm
can
going to
be
urge
special things that live in people's homes.
everyone watching this. I want you to harangue Jack to put stuff out on Laserdisc and reel to
Laserdisc,
reel,
reel to reel. What about
Betamax.
a track?
Sure.
Uh,
It's pretty great.
yeah, I'll go.
I like it.
I like things, and I like things being around, and I feel that the things that mean the most to us have to we enjoy them in physical form.
Yeah, that tactile experience.
Yeah,
Also, you're announcing a U.S. tour soon. Tell me about that.
yeah. There's gonna be a few legs and tours on this album, but this is the first one, and it goes mostly around the country. But like all tours, once you announce them, it's often a chorus of the places you didn't go, wondering why you hate this town or that town.
Why do you hate Poughkeepsie?
Yeah.
What's exactly? Uh, there, speaking of towns and areas, I'm sure you're going to be playing near your stomping grounds, New Jersey. This new album, or at least the new single, and a lot of Bleacher's music lately sounds to me distinctly New Jersey. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's the saxophone, the chorus of voices, or what exactly it is. The party atmosphere that's on some of the recordings, but it sounds to me like music that couldn't originate from anywhere else.
No, I always feel the music comes from a very specific place, and you kind of have, there's everything you're talking about, there's the way you play and whatnot, but this sense of where you're reporting from, I really like stamping myself and the band of here's where we're reporting from. If you want to imagine us here, because that's where we are. And then all these different landscapes have these characteristics that are so fun to carry the torch of. New Jersey's fun because it's coastal, so you have horns, but then you have this like great hope as it's outside of New York City, so it's not the place. It wants to be the place, but it isn't. And so you have this get me out of here hope, but then you also have this joy of what it is, and you realize that you know being right outside the thing is actually way cooler than being the thing. Unlike New York City music, which I love, but has this like boredom, right? This seen it all nature. You think about the Velvet Underground and the Strokes and whatnot. This sort of here we are at the center of it all. I'm practically Parisian point of view.
Yeah.
um, and so that's who I am. And I don't sit around trying to inject that, but I welcome it when it comes.
I know that you sit through interview after interview, when you have a new project out where people just list back to you all the things that you've done. But I
But you're
list
gonna
the.
do
I'm going to
it.
do it. Yeah, just
It's
because
not a bad
I'll
thing. It's not a bad
I'll
thing.
feel it. Yeah, I'm sure you hate
It's
people.
no, it's a nice reminder. You don't. I think sometimes in an interview, I don't really sit around talking about my career. I'm just making things. So interviews are often these interesting experiences where you are like, oh wow, that was oh cool. You get to
Right, you get
look
a
sort of back
retrospective.
and forward in a funny way.
Well, the everybody knows this watching, but you produced or you created with Lana Del Rey and Taylor Swift and Florence and the Machine and Diana Ross and so forth, the Chicks. To a large degree, and this is follows a question. I was talking to Dan Wilson, songwriter, about
God,
this
he's the
recently.
best.
He's
I
the
have the
best, and he's
honor
so
of
much fun to be around.
I've been in 2 writing sessions with him, and he's just, one of the greatest to ever do it.
I was asking him about something that applies to you in spades, that your acumen as a producer gets people to come around in the first place, but on some level you've got to be an enjoyable hang. You've got to be decently fun to be around. I guess my question is, what makes Jack Antonoff such a joy to know?
Oh, I'm the last person who could answer that. I've always understood myself to be a pretty big troll. So um I don't know. But I have a lot of fun when we're in the studio. I can't speak for anyone else, but it's often a place where I guess I'll give you one serious answer to that question. I do have a belief that the studio is a sacred place, and if you're not having a good time, if you're not feeling it, if you're not feeling yourself, don't be there. So I'm the opposite of any of these people that are just sort of like go all night, grind it out, go go go. I think that um if it's not happening, it's not happening, and I don't believe that everyone needs to be making things all the time, which is a little bit dissonant to how cultural is right now. I think it's nice to make things when you feel like making things. I've felt like making things the past few years, and it's been reflected in the amount of albums that have come out. But yeah, so maybe there can be a lightness to that, to just saying like, if it's not happening, it's not happening.
Right.
I like
Well,
to keep
I
it a
think
positive place. I like to keep it a happy, enjoyable place. Also, because 9 out of 10 times the shit we're writing about can be so heavy that it feels a little bit indulgent or redundant to not also just have a fun time in there.
right. I think the result is that you end up with a Rolodex where you call people up and they say, yeah. Like I'm watching you on Saturday Night Live. I can't believe it's been almost 2 years ago now. I thought it was at
I
the
know.
beginning of this.
Same.
It seems like it
Past
was
year was
yesterday.
like really weird.
But I'm watching the performance. I'm like, is that Blue the Tiger playing bass? Is that Claude in there? It's like people like to assemble around you. You draw a pretty
Yeah,
talented group
Blue
of
and Claude we call bleachers cousins because they kind of float in and out. But I like that. Music's writing is so solitary that probably as a kid when I first started touring, but I've always seen it as this community thing. I like having these small communities. I like these characters that pop up, and I kind of have a small little scene around me. And if you believe in that, then it's a little bit like your own gang or whatnot.
yeah. Let's talk Grammys. You won this year Producer of the Year. You won last year Producer of the Year, and you're up for Producer of the Year again in February. Why are you so selfish? I think is
Um,
the
I guess
question.
I was born that way. I think my
Do you have a tiny worry? This is a serious question. Do you have a
yeah.
tiny worry in the back of your mind that at some point, once you get enough accolades or affirmation of the work that you've done, that you might start to get lazy, or it might sap your creative spirit? Or is it just always is it that
No.
stuff that you don't even think much about and just you move forward?
Well, they're just separate. They're not the goal. When you're in the studio and you're on tour and you're writing and recording and you're, doing what I do every day of my life, you're not thinking about awards. You're thinking about such a bigger, such a humbling place. You're trying to do something that can be so evasive. You're trying to capture a feeling, and it's a funny job because you can't just do it. I could sit here and write a song, but it might be missing that most important element. I kind of have to wait for it to hit me. And so I think if you're, and same thing with touring, this community experience, bringing people together, making something that's bigger than the sum of its parts. If you're really in touch with those things, which I am every day, then I think it's pretty hard to imagine that a sales number or an award would have any role in that room. It just doesn't. So it's more these separate things that can be really cool and feel like a nice thumbs up or whatnot. But the room is like, it's like church. You're thinking about something way bigger.
You got enough of them to be doorstops in just about every room of the house at this point. Been a pretty good year. You produced for Lana Del Rey's. Do you know there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard? 1975's album, Being Funny in a Foreign Language. Taylor Swift's Midnights. I mean, that's a
Yeah, I was really proud of this year because it felt like those three albums for me represented very different things that all meant a lot to me. And specifically with Lana and Taylor, those are long relationships where it's very against a lot of cultural opinions right now, where it's more just like pivot, but just these drilling deeper and deeper into these long relationships, we've been able to access way more interesting work than I just really believe in that, in this furthering of relationships. So those two specifically, when I look back at that list, are really encouraging for me.
It's really crazy because Taylor Swift. This is a arena filling music. These are bangers that you can play in an arena. Some of them, and then Lana Del Rey's music is something like, as you say, that it exists where it exists, and it doesn't care if you come to it or not. But by God, people come to it and they seek it out.
Yeah, they're very different. It's funny. I've thought about them in comparison a lot this year, just because of the kind of stuff we've been talking about, and they ask very different things of you. But then at the end of the day, they kind of do a similar thing, which is they bring people together. And I always think that's funny with music, and it also just goes to show you can never know what's going to grab people and how it's going to grab people. It's just a bit more your job to make it and then deliver it.
And as if the year couldn't get any bigger for you, you got married this summer.
Yeah, that was the best part.
That's fantastic. You marry Margaret Qualley, who's amazing actress.
The best.
You've seen her in Maid and a number of other things. That's fantastic. So just to sum up here, accomplished musician, established songwriter, celebrated performer,
married,
award-winning producer. What outwardly appears like a storybook home life. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I wonder if, just for us schlubs, if you can make us feel better and name one thing that you're not, that you fail at, that you're not.
All I do is every day I just wake up and fail. I just go to that you guys only get to see the good stuff. You see the stuff that makes the cut. Yeah, I don't. It's very nice to hear everything you just said, but at the end of the day, I think I really like being in a space where there's a lot of hope and prayer to get where you want to get, and not a lot of ego. That's why the studio is such a special place for me. It's because there's really no room for ego, because it just doesn't play. No one's ego makes a good album. No one's ego makes a good song. It's this sort of long, intense, interesting process. So I don't know. I stay there. So I guess I feel tons of conflict in my life.
It looks easy.
But you're making me feel good.
Easy from a distance.
Yeah, but you're making me feel very like I've done something right.
Well, last question. What's left? We know that there's a tour coming. We know the new album in a couple of months. Is there anything else that we might not expect that you're working on? Like maybe more music for film or TV or for the stage?
Yeah, lots of stuff. And I never talk about it because I always want the music to lead. I don't like filling people's heads with any thoughts besides the music first. But yeah. So yes.
Yeah, you'll be busy
yes.
in the new year. Well, it's so good to meet you.
Yeah, lovely to chat. And come hang when we're in California.
That sounds great. I
would love you to come to the show.
all the best, and all the success with the new album. Once again, it comes out March 8th. You can pre-order now at bleachersmusic.com. Jack Antonoff, everybody, here
Thank you
on
so much.
88.5 the SoCal Sound. My pleasure.
Lovely to talk with you, Andy. Take care.